am Asia in Spanning Gateway, and this is going to be a video on partnerships, okay? Because I had a communion with Spirit, and I asked what um, is a good thing, good word to talk about. And so partnership is brought up, okay? So we're going to talk about partnerships, um, the word partnership, because there's many ways of perceiving, way of seeing it. Sees, deals with consciousness, the waters, being able to see that, even though they changed it to SEA for a sea, that's why a sea is called a sea. Is based off of see, being able to see, perceive. Deals with consciousness, being able to see through consciousness, not, and that also deals with the spirit, because it's something that is unseen with these two eyes. We are only able to perceive through our spiritual eye, our third eye, if you want to call it that. That's just a word we use to identify being able to see things that are not in physicality. So it's good to understand seeing, because it all has everything to do with sight, and sight in the spirit deals with clarity, clear things, being clear deals with the truth. The truth is very important to understand as well. There's many different words that is deep once you get into the spirit, but we're taught to be so, everything is so superficial, so surface level, okay, because we only skating on the surface of things. And we don't deal with the deep. See, the deep also deals with the waters, the conscious waters, in the spirit, getting into the purpose, meaning, and reason of things. And we don't necessarily take the time to do that because we're paying attention to only physicality and the material. Everything is very materialistic, right? That's because we're more material dominated and not focusing on the spirit. It's deep. Anyways, partnerships come in many different forms, okay? And it deals with material forms all the way to lighter, dense, um, spiritual forms, things that are in the unseen. Okay, this is how a good way of understanding the light and the dark, the polarity, the masculine, the feminine. There's many words we can use to identify this thing that is not in front of our faces, but we're able to perceive through the usage of words. That's why the word is so important to understand, because that's how people get manipulated, is through the word. The word of God, they say. Um, God speaks in many different ways, and it's up to us individually to know how God speaks. And if you don't know, that's because your mind has already been manipulated with the word God, and your way of seeing, your sight, your clarity is off because you don't know. If you don't know the truth, have clarity, sight, perception, sees. So anyways, partnerships come in many different forms when we're dealing with human beings. Human beings, when we're dealing with beings, because there's many different forms of being, many different ways of being, right? These are all different existences, states of being. So partnership is a state of being. Being and partnerships exist in many different forms, all at the same time. There's many different people in different partnerships. Everything is co-relating. That's another way of identifying partnerships, is correlation. Co is two, usually, or more, in relation, relating, coming together, sharing information, experience. It's an environment. Words are environments. But they're taught so very dimensionally through one dimensionally, or two or three, depending on how they want to identify the words. And I say they because it is certain individual men, a man usually, or or not even, but to slap people's names on shit, names and titles, deep. That's the main big form of witchery, manipulation, spellery, all type of witchcraft is through words. And people have a wrong, I won't say wrong, I say a limited perspective of witchcraft. Only thinking it's somebody trying to cast spells. No, you cast spells with the things that you say. You down talk somebody, that's casting a spell. You putting somebody in a lower state of being, that is a spell. You're changing somebody's state of being. That's going against somebody's will, especially if somebody is like a naturally happy person, just for an example. And then you, by the things that you say, you put somebody in a lower state of being, a lower state of consciousness, being conscious of more negative things, because there's different it's a spectrum between negative and positive. Okay, so that's a form of witchcraft. There's many different forms of witchcraft that we do in everyday life that we don't identify as witchcraft, because we're thinking that witchcraft is somebody just who doesn't believe in somebody else's God. Because somebody doesn't believe in somebody else's God, they automatically doing witchcraft. How ridiculous is that? So I'm supposed to believe in your God. Okay, but okay. Um, so that's why you want to know who God is for yourself. You're supposed to have your own individual relationship with God, right? And that's something that they do teach you, but it's important for you to understand who God is for you. And you have to be careful who you allow to be the Lord over your temple, okay? Over your the Lord over your home. Your, depending on whatever home that your spiritual environment is. Here you go. What? So, and then they calling people sheep. That's not a term of endearment. Sheeps are, if you know the nature of sheeps, okay, they tend to not be that intelligent. So, and that's a good way to identify how that word is being used, because that word is used in many different ways as well, because there's actual people that look at people like sheep. So that is an existence. It's a way of seeing, a perception, a way of sight, being able to have that imagination, that imagery, to be able to see in spirit. That's why the imagination is very important, in especially in innocence and youth. And that's been taken away so much from children based off of the way that we live. Anyways, I didn't even talk about partnerships. I just be wave surfing. So um partnerships come on many different spectrums, okay? And let's get into breaking down the word, okay? When we know something is part, that means it's not whole. So it's only in part, okay? So it means that when something is not whole, that means two things are coming together to create a shape or a form, okay? Because partnership is also a form. It's a lighter form. It's a form that's in spirit. You can't grab hold to a partnership, right? That, but it's something that you're able to perceive, you're able to see in spirit. Is a partnership. You can see when two people are together, not just physically, but you know when somebody's not with their partner, that they are still attached to that particular being. So a partnership is very much spiritual. It happens in the spirit. And so when something is coming together, it is a form of an agreement. So a partnership is an agreement. Okay, something coming together. Ship is the form. Okay, so a ship is a form. Now, there's many ways to be able to perceive ship, because a ship, if we think of what ships are, okay, there's many forms of ships. There's ships that are in the seas of consciousness as well. You can look at it in lighter forms, because the consciousness also represents waters spiritually, because we don't have the waters right here in front of us. So we're looking at things spiritually. So that's a ship, and the form and the purpose, meaning, reason, spirit of a ship is transportation, right? Moving across the seas, or moving through consciousness, a form moving through consciousness, okay? Because these are lighter ways of seeing things, because they are in different forms right now. We're only able to perceive it because we're paying attention to these types of forms. So a ship is a container, and it's a container of information. It has its navigation system, right? It has its security systems, whatever material. Okay, material is also in a lighter form, because a thought is material. It gets materialized. So it just comes into a denser physical form, because things happen in the spirit before they come into form. When people have ideas, then something is therefore then created. This is another form of creation, because we have to see that creation is on multiple dimensions or multiple levels, or it's happening all around us. Just our very movements is creation, is action, because otherwise we'd be a still. That's why they have stills, for things that are in place, that are fixed energy. Shit goes deep. Anyways, am I still talking about partnerships? Partnerships. Okay, so coming together, a ship. Okay, yeah. So I was saying, so we have ships on the sea, right? We got ships on the sea. We got ships in the air. We call them airplanes. Those are also a form of ships, containers. Okay. And then we have ships in space. These are different forms of consciousness when we look at them spiritually, because we have the denser forms. And as we broaden out through space, the air gets, thinner, or however you want to describe that in space. But it's all different states of consciousness and different states of water, if you wanted to look at it physically. Because if we look at it physically, air is just a lighter form of water, right? That's how we have condensation in water cycles. So that also has to do with states of consciousness, phases, and cycles that we go through, right? Because we go through cycles. And us being able to attribute to cycles to karmic cycles, okay? Because that's a way of showing a polarity that's happening in your life, in your direction. It's a sense of direction, okay? So you know where you're going spiritually. um Shit is deep, because you're navigating your soul, your individuality. Okay, if you want to look at your soul, depending on how you want to see your soul, there's many ways to see or perceive or look at a soul, many ways to identify a soul, just based off of information, though. It's a matter of how you want to see a soul and how you see it for yourself. That's the most important thing. Um, Not to believe, but to be able to actually perceive it, to see it, to be able to identify soul, people that have soul, what a soul is, how did it become. These are things that are known, but they're not taught, because it's the occult, I guess, that you want to call it that. This is actually science, and it should be taught along with things that are happening in the light. The things that are in the dark should be taught with the things that are happening in the light. Because if you're only getting one polarity, and that's why the materiality, we've been on that polarity, not focusing on things in the spirit, things in the dark, things that are not seen with with the physical eyes through physicality, but it's very much happening at the same time because spirit is not separate. Eternity is now. It's no separate time. Only if you want to look at something as time as being separate. Man uses mind consciousness to be able to use the art of separation to separate different times, to be able to use times for man's accomplishments, what man wants to accomplish. So time is used. Just it's a form of measurement. Damn.